O'Neill, 2 L's. I serve the SGC under a General Hammond.
We're explorers. You see, we're from another planet.
The unstable vortex of a forming wormhole. Kawoosh.
Indeed.
Hello interwebs, welcome back to another episode of the Kawoosh podcast. I am Arne and I am joined by my wife,
It's me.
Evie.
Yes, I have a name and a husband.
And we are here to talk about SG1.
We are?
Yeah, we are. And
I thought we were talking about Clendathu.
Clendathu? No. That's another podcast entirely.
How many did you have planned? I am not watching the second and third movies and so on.
It does have diminishing returns, and then we haven't even watched the computer animated ones.
Okay, I just want to make a note that we are 1 minute in, not even, and I already derailed us. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's perfectly normal. That's what podcasts do.
I thought you were gonna say that's what my wife does. But...
No. No, we are talking today about episode 5 of season 1 of Stargate SG1, and it is called First Commandment. And when we put the DVD in, you remarked that the DVD menu was kind of nice.
I missed old DVD menus. They really put effort in that, and you just walk through the hallway when you select something else. And you go into the base, and then you go through the Stargate, and then you end up in a place where there's a lot more machinery than they ever have off-world. But, you know.
Yeah, nowadays you're lucky if they even have a menu. Okay, so let's recap the episode. We start on a dark planet, and an SG team of 2 is running through the forest, and it appears they are chased. They drops him something, the remote, which I'm pretty sure is the remote for the Iris.
Yes.
And one of the guys goes back for it and gets shot down with a blow dart, and he falls down, while the other one dials the gate. And he wants to run back for his comrade, but the other one tells Connor to go.
Yeah, because the one running away is Connor, and the one who got shot is Frakes. I made a point of noting down names this time.
The captured guy, so Frakes in this case, I didn't write down his name. I'm sorry, I was too busy typing. So he gets captured, and all the people standing around him, and they are like very native inspired. I had a hard time pinning down where the inspiration came from. I had a feeling it was like a melting pot of a few things.
I noted that the costumes were very much inspired by the fact that it's a radiation planet, because they're very muddy and they have these these literal sort of wigs on, and also these beehive mud encapsulated masks, which would make a lot more sense if we would actually see them wear those outside in the sun later on. But we always see them wearing these at night, which they're not handy masks. I mean,
no.
I've played LARP. These are not masks you can run around in a dark forest with, and
You can try.
You can try, but you know
you're gonna trip.
You're gonna need ice packs. So that choice, I keep bumping into the mic. That choice was kind of odd to me. But
probably just purely for style.
I think they also wanted to make a clear distinction between the ones that were staying on the planet but were SG9. This is SG9.
Oh, is it SG9?
Yes, I made another note of it. This is SG9.
Oh, wow. I completely did not write that down. Anyway, so they capture one of them, Frakes, and the leader of the attackers confronts him, and he has a cloak, but it is pretty clear that he is also from Earth, because he's wearing the dog tags, and he shoots the guy with a pistol and then orders to burn the body. And he looks at the open gate, and they assume that Connor got away.
Which it turns out he didn't.
No, but we only get to know that later on, because then it cuts to the opening credits, and afterwards we see Teal'c and Jack step through the gate into the forest, joining Daniel and Carter already there. And we get some some funny remarks actually on the fact that they come across a lot of planets with forests.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of forests around Vancouver.
Well, it makes it very easy to, film
Yeah,
a
of
distant
course.
planets.
They do have a varied places around Vancouver. That's why people go and film there, and because it's cheaper, of course, than filming in the US. But they have a lot of forests. But Teal'c has a very good explanation for it, because he says that many planets have been terraformed by Goa'uld, and that's why they have a lot of forests. Abydos, so the planet from the original movie, seems to be the exception rather than the rule.
Because desert is hard to come by in Vancouver.
Yes.
Yes.
Even snow sometimes. Especially when they do the Olympics.
Yes, and then they have to bring in snow, which is such a weird thing when you told me that.
Carter also remarks that there are no birds.
Yes, and Teal'c actually notices that Carter is noticing something. No, because he's always...
Noticing things?
Teal'c is very aware of what people are doing.
Yeah, but
Meanwhile, Daniel, this is not a dig to Daniel, he walks out of the gate and he's immediately like the world and the culture. But Teal'c like notices people
But
within
he's a
things.
soldier,
Yeah,
so-
he's detail oriented.
Yeah.
That's what I was going for in a roundabout way. We got there in the end.
Daniel is looking for a road. I don't know why he's looking for a road in a forest. And he comes across Connor, who jumps him. And Jack intervenes and immediately recognizes him and calms him down. And they take him to the gate. And they tell him that they got his signal, but nobody came through. They also find the remains of his burned colleague.
Can I just say, those remains were very sparse? How do you say that?
There
That
wasn't
is-
a lot left.
That's not how that works. You can't just burn a body and then have it vanish. Like, if you want to cremate a body, you need a lot more
Yeah.
heat. And I know I probably watched way too many crime shows to know this, but even if you put it in like a contained barbecue unit, you still can't get it hot enough to get that little remains left. So that kind of took me out of the moment. I'm not gonna lie. I mean,
No,
no.
It is true, because they're looking at the remains, and I was like, what remains? Because
There were a few
it's-
ribs.
Yeah, they dig around a little bit, and then I was like, okay, I can see a little bit of bone and a rib, and like.
And like some fabric and the dog tags. I'm like, yeah, no, that's no.
But I was also a bit confused by like where's the body?
Yeah.
And then Connor tells them that the Colonel Hansen apparently went crazy, and he thinks it might have been because this planet has a lot of radiation. But the people of the planet believe Hansen is a god, and he started believing it too.
Well, it's not. He didn't even deny it. Like the second they
Mm-hmm.
stepped through, he just went with it. Which,
Yeah, but this
Yeah.
is like what Connor is filling us in on, and at
Yeah.
this point we don't really know all the details, because Jack takes Carter aside, and he wants to send her back to Earth to inform Hammond, and then Carter refuses, and we find out that she used to be engaged to Hansen, and she insists that she is the only one who can probably get through to him.
what I liked about this scene is that Jack knows enough about Carter's backstory. Like he probably knows everybody's file. Because he takes his job serious, and he immediately wants to be like, okay, this is too close and personal for you. Go back home. But then the second she does say no, he's like, no, sir. And he does make a little bit of a joke out of it, that nobody listens to him, because he also tries to send Connor back. But he
Yeah.
doesn't force the issue, which I thought was really nice, because he too is on a personal mission for Skara. So he's not going to force other people not to be on personal missions.
Also, the way he goes about it is like he takes her aside. He doesn't confront her in front of
Yeah,
everybody.
he's like, hey, that's your ex-fiance. Like, he doesn't just toss it into the group.
And you can clearly feel that's also a little bit protective of her. Like maybe you shouldn't be in this situation.
Yeah, but also I don't think he would have reacted differently if Carter wasn't. If Carter had been a guy, he would just have done the exact same.
Yeah, exactly. It's
Yeah.
just like on a personal level, I don't want to put you in this situation where
Yeah.
you might need to kill this guy.
Yeah.
And that's what he's going for. Like maybe you shouldn't be here, not because you're a woman, but just because you know the guy. But yeah, you're right. Connor, he wants to send Connor next because he needs some medical attention, but he also refuses. And then O'Neill asks if it says Colonel anywhere on his uniform.
But does it say Colonel?
But
Colonel?
that's
Any?
well, this is not a reference, but it will get referenced in the. It's either the 100th episode or the 200th episode with the show in the show.
Okay.
The character that's supposed to be Jack is like, in fact, it does say Colonel on my uniform, and
Okay. You're thinking way ahead.
no, but it's because we're rewatching this that I know it's like, oh, this is the reference. This is what it's referencing because, but it's like way in season 1, and the 100th episode is like season 8 or something. It's way back.
I want to ask something too to all the English speakers. Why do you pronounce Colonel with an R in there, but there's no R when you write it? You write it like it's like you can pop it in the microwave and get corn out of it, like popcorn. Like, why is it written the way it is written, or why is it pronounced the way it's pronounced?
That's also the reason why I always mispronounce it, because I look at the page and I see an L, but it's not supposed.
Also,
you're not supposed to
also
pronounce
we
it.
say colonel, so to get from there to colonel, it's kind of trippy to get there.
Yeah.
Anyway,
We get our first Wizard of Oz reference, and it gets followed by a few. Actually, they do.
you
a couple
counted
of them.
them. There were 3.
I didn't count them, but
Jack
I know.
did 2 and
Yeah.
Carter did 1.
I know that this is something that, especially Jack, does a lot. He has a lot of references. He does a lot of Simpsons references. And he does a lot of Wizard of Oz references.
And also Lucy.
And Lucy. Yeah.
That was the last one.
They start walking, and at this point we cut to the bad guys. One of the SG members of that team walks up to Hansen. Did you note down that name?
Nobody mentions his name. That's just the 4th member of the team.
He's
and
always around.
Yeah.
Well, they mention at one point that there is an anthropologist in their team.
Yeah, but that was Frakes.
Oh, was that Frakes?
That was Frakes.
Then he's dead.
I really do feel like the writers wrote 3 characters, and then the production went like, every team has 4 members, right? Like, and then they just plonked them in there, like,
Like, you there.
Yeah.
You're a member.
Like, but I
Stand
was
over
gonna
there.
be like a native. No. We need another. I don't know.
But yeah, he says to Hansen that it's SG-1 that they sent to come for them. Then, meanwhile, the other team is camping. Daniel makes a funny joke about the military food. Tastes like chicken, but it should be mac and cheese. I thought it was kind of clever. And then Connor fills them in on what happened, how they arrived, and the people worshipped them. And Frakes, their anthropologist, agreed to pretending might help with connecting to the people. But it apparently was a very slippery slope, because Hansen started believing it was true.
I know they're very much on a learning curve with visiting other planets, but you just have to think that at a certain point in time, they made a handbook that said, don't pretend to be gods, okay? We've tried it a couple of times. It never goes well.
Never works out.
Don't do it.
Yeah.
Somewhere out there is a PowerPoint that has that in there. And
There's like 7 steps before you go through the gate. One of them is don't pretend you're a
yeah,
god.
and Daniel is the one pointing at it with his laser pointer when he gives like these seminars. Like, sorry.
Connor also tells them that Hansen puts the non-believers in direct sunlight to let them burn. And if they survive 7 days, they will be allowed back into the caves, but by then they are mostly blind.
Also, you can't survive 7 days without water, so
Yeah.
something's wrong there. Either they do get fit, they just have to stand there.
It's unclear.
Yeah.
And then Jack tells them he'll take first watch. We cut to Hansen overlooking a building operation. Very short scene, and back to the camp where Teal'c is meditating. And Connor goes to relieve Jack, but the natives have surrounded the camp and are attacking. Teal'c fires his staff weapon.
I want to make a note that Teal'c does not shoot to kill.
No, he shoots it in the air,
Yeah.
chasing them off. But at that point, they notice Connor is gone. We cut back to Hansen complaining that the building is going way too slow. They are apparently building him a temple, and his unnamed friend warns him that the people will die if he overworks them. which he
I am still
doesn't care
very
about.
confused what the temple was even for.
I have no
It was all. I know it's a matte painting, but it was also way over there. Like, what was the plan here? It also looks like it was made out of these playing building blocks, the wooden ones that everybody had growing up.
It does,
It does kind of look like.
It does have the shapes.
Yeah.
I think it was a place of worship for him
Okay.
that would shelter them from the sun.
But it had
Because
really
he
big
was
windows.
like, I know how to build. They still live in caves.
Okay.
So that's part of his god complex. And probably the idea was that he was going to build a city or something to
Okay.
put them in. I don't
They
know.
probably just needed something that looked temple-y. Anyway.
The
moving
meat
on.
of the story is in
in the
him,
worshipping.
not in
Yeah.
not in the plan behind it.
I just had a lot of remarks on because they're chopping these blocks. They're not chopping blocks. They're just chopping. I'm like, that's not how you chop blocks.
Yeah.
Also, these carts are not the best way to transport these blocks because you have to lift them up a certain amount. Like, just cut down some trees. You have so many trees. Make rolling blocks. Like, roll them over. I'm sorry. I know I'm thinking too much about the logistics of this thing.
But also,
But if he
in the wide shots, you have all these poles that are just in like a tent shape,
yeah.
stacked against each other, and you're like, it's a quarrel. What's with all the wood?
A quarry.
Quarry, sorry. It's a quarry. What's with all the wood?
Yeah.
Like,
I just
They just made it look interesting, but
like logistic wise, that's not not the most proficient way to build a temple, okay? Okay, I'm sorry.
yeah, but he's a god. You shouldn't question him.
See, this is why I would have been first on the stake.
Oh, no doubt
yeah.
about that. On their way there, Carter and Daniel are talking about Hansen and Carter's relation to him, and she tells Daniel that Hansen always was a bit controlling and she was the one breaking off the engagement. But she says it seemed better when they met back at SG Command.
Well, yeah, because he was in the military and he was probably on his best behavior.
Yeah, probably the fact that he was a team leader, leading people to other planets, probably stroked his ego enough.
Yeah, probably also his ex was asking him how he was doing. I mean, you're never gonna tell your ex that you're actually, eating mac and cheese every evening and sleeping on the couch, crying with like Cheetos dust on you. I don't know. Like,
We cut back to the giant building operation. I wrote down that it's actually a pretty good mix of CG matte painting and practical set pieces.
well, yeah. I mean, if you just ignore the logistics of the
Yeah.
temple building, it looks good.
It's kind of a weird temple,
Yeah.
but on the whole, if you look at the image, it looks nice, and there's a lot of practical stuff in the foreground, which blends well. So
Yeah, the
that's,
effects are still hold up.
So they come up to the quarry, and SD1 is spying from the edge of the forest, and Tilk is the one that notices that Connor has been strung up against a pole in the sun. Jack disappears to get a closer look and maybe wants to save Connor, while Tilk remarks that at this rate there will be no worshippers left by the time they are done with the temple. And then Daniel compares that to the story of Abraham.
Which makes no sense to me. I mean, I get that they wanted to lean into the biblical aspect of it because Hansen also has a Bible on him at all times. But why, out of all the stories, go for the one about Abraham, which is about, I don't know if you know it, but he's the one that
Needs to sacrifice his son.
Basically, God makes a deal with the devil. And he's like, the devil goes, I bet you can get, Abraham to sacrifice his son for you. And then God's like, nah, see this. And then he tells Abraham, like, hey, sacrifice your son for me, yo. And I'm trying to make it more interesting than it is.
But I think that's the only little bit of the story
Yeah.
that you're actually latching onto. It's he is sacrificing his people, and that's
I
all
don't
that
know,
connected
but
to the
there's a
story.
lot of sacrifice in the Bible, so why choose that one?
Maybe
Because,
because it's-
Abraham didn't want to sacrifice his son,
No.
and then at the very last, but he still
but
did it
maybe
because
he
God told him to.
thinks that's who he is, and maybe he
Well-
thinks it's a necessity. I don't know. It's very thin.
Daniel says Abraham was considered himself the first of men or something like that, and maybe that's what they latched on. I just felt like having to go to church until I was 18, I felt like they could have picked a better comparison. That's all I'm saying.
I think it's just because it's a well-known story.
Yeah, but in that.
And they were
but-
going for Old Testament because way at the end we'll get the title drop. Also Old Testament. So maybe...
No, the first commandment.
Yeah. Isn't that Old Testament? Well, at least Jack thinks it is.
Well, yeah, but Jack also got the commandment wrong, so
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, exactly. So maybe, yeah, well, anyway.
Anyway.
Teal'c also doesn't understand.
Yeah.
And then some of the workers fall down from exhaustion, and the unnamed guy gets mad and starts beating one of them. Carter wants to go stop it, and by the time Jack returns from his recon, Carter has gone over there and punched the other guy.
And I love that Daniel goes. He's like, oh no, Carter went, and he's like, oh no, she's gone. And Teal'c, no, I think Daniel says we could have stopped her. We could have tried and stop her. And Teal'c just deadpans, we would have failed. And I love that. I love that Teal'c's like, no, you're not stopping Dr. Carter. He has like mad respect for her, and he just knows that it would have failed.
Gamers respect game. Yeah, but at that point, Carter gets captured, and Jack watches it happen and mentions it's probably their only way in without a firefight anyway.
Yeah, and now we fall back into the whole Carter actually getting things done and the rest kind of lumbering around the site for a while, which I felt like we've done this before.
Yeah, we're 5 episodes in, and she is clearly the proactive one.
I mean, her and Teal'c. But I do get that she has an in here because she has a history with this guy.
Yeah,
So-
and Jack has a point. Like, it's either this or go in guns blazing, which is also not a good solution.
Yeah, because people will,
Yeah.
die at that point.
So they lead Carter before Hansen, and she calls him by his first name, Jonas, also biblical. He is sitting on a throne when she gets there, and he's surrounded by women.
I counted them. He has 3 women sitting at his feet. And then he has the audacity to say that he is saving these people because they're running out of room in these caves because they're breeding like rabbits. So he's going to save them by taking them. Like, have you considered birth control, sir? You have 3 wives. I feel like the first step would have had been to teach these people birth control, like, but that's not what's really going on here,
No.
is it? Yeah, but yeah. Sorry, did I skip ahead?
No, you recapped what I was gonna say. But yeah, he insists that he's saving them. And Carter asks how posing as a god helps anyone. At this point, he gets mad because for him it's not posing, because he thinks he's helping them. And he insists he is creating a new society in his image. So yeah, there's the god complex. Jack wants to go talk to somebody and ask for their help. And Daniel spots the one that was beaten. So they follow him and corner him as he's trying to drink from a stream.
And can I just point out that the mise en scène,
Blocking.
the blocking is
Or mise en scène.
The blocking is awesome there. Like, they really thought that out, that Daniel goes and drinks next to him in the stream, and then Jack positions himself that the camera shoots through his legs, and then the guy tries to run and runs into Teal'c, and that was really well
For
positioned.
such
Yeah.
a small scene was well
Yeah.
done. Yeah. Hansen takes Carter into the caves, and he's looking at cave paintings, but he mentions he can't read them. Carter finds a gun in his gear, because apparently we're at where he sleeps, and pulls it on him, and he calls her bluff. It's loaded, she just has to pull the trigger, and as he walks up to her, she can't.
Which, I get it, but also kneecaps, take people out too. So why didn't she just shoot him in the leg?
True.
But then you have a whole angry mob who might get confused because you just shot their god, I guess? I don't know. I'm probably overthinking it.
Or maybe the writers underthought it a little bit.
I did notice that when he takes the gun off of her, we cut back to a close-up of her where she's very obviously still holding the gun. And
yeah.
I do wonder, because it's just a little corner left of the screen, did they had to zoom out at a certain point for the DVDs? And that's why it's suddenly in there? Or
No,
not?
because it was always shot in 16 by 9.
Then
So
they
maybe-
thought nobody's gonna notice. It's gonna be fine. Like,
Maybe
I don't know.
they just didn't have a reaction without the gun.
True, but it was sharp enough that they could have zoomed in a little, I feel, or even panned a little.
Especially if you think that
Yeah.
they shot it on 16 millimeters, so they had.
Yeah.
Well, it depends. If they scanned it in HD, they might have not done that, and then you don't really have the resolution to
Yeah,
do so.
and probably
I think
no-
their post production was not like it is nowadays. You had to scan the film, which takes time and money, and if you then have to push in on it, it's probably
Yeah.
more expensive. I don't
Yeah,
know.
they probably were like, nobody's gonna notice this. And then,
Exactly. He says that it's weird that even though she had the gun, he had the control, which he calls the power of
Oh
God.
gosh, yeah. And at that point, I was like, please just punch him in the face. Carter has so much more self-control than I have. Which is probably why she's allowed off-world and I'm not.
Or the fact that we don't have a Stargate. But
You don't know that. They're hushing it up.
for all we know, we don't have a Stargate.
Yeah, no, they would have. If the United States had a Stargate, they would be bragging about it
True.
so hard.
True.
I mean, it's
It
not
would've-
like the Manhattan
It
Project
would have
was.
been leaked in a
It's-
tweet or
Oh,
or a
gosh.
signal conversation.
It's not like the Manhattan Project was actually a secret, you know.
So at the creek, they try to talk to the local, and he mentions that they were told bad people would come through the gate and they would be demons. But he also recognizes Tilk as a Jafar. Tilk then tries to reassure him with a weird, friendly smile.
I love that he tries to smile, and Jack's like, "We have to work on that because."
But he does make it his own because it's like a trope that you see in a lot of movies, but he does a different smile. He really makes it his own. But apparently the local guy knows Jafar from the old stories from when he was a kid. So they use this to convince him that Jonas is no god. But apparently Hansen made the promise that he was gonna make the sky orange and take away the radiation sickness. At this point, Tilk seems to know what's going on and what possibly could be the plan. Hansen then takes Carter to the build site. She reiterates that there will be nobody left to worship him. There is a lot of small redundant scenes, I have the feeling, like story beats that get repeated a little bit. We cut back to Tilk, who is explaining that there is a device that does this.
His sketch is spot on, except
Yeah.
it isn't. But I loved it.
But he draws it on a piece of paper. And
I love how he sketches the top like trapezium like, and then the actual prop is very much a dome. But the guy still like you draw really well. And Duke's like, thank you.
yeah, and apparently it's also something that they have found in their cave painting, so that's probably how Hansen found out about it. We cut back to the mines.
Lots of cutting.
Yeah, Hansen reveals the old Gwaul device, and he figured out it was a sun shield to treat this, the sun sickness. Carter figures out he only wanted SG-1 to come there so she could help him turn it on.
Which is a kind of a flimsy plan, because there's a lot of teams. How could he have been sure
Yeah.
that they would have been sent?
Because they're the main ones?
I
Or maybe because Carter knows him?
yeah, but that would have been a
yeah.
reason not to send her.
Exactly.
So, anyway,
Well, they didn't know he went crazy. He was just missing.
still.
But still, yeah.
I mean, that's a lottery with 12 teams. Anyway,
But he also mentions that he hopes she will become his goddess. And he picks up a Bible and laugh that he used to search for God, and here he is.
which is a good line. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah,
That's a good line.
and he delivers it well. Because,
Which is good because overall he's not the best actor in the series. There's times when he has to act a little crazed and he overdoes it in my eyes.
yeah, but I also think he is a little bit underwritten. Like, it's a really interesting hook.
True, but also the bad guy in the camp where women had no say was also underwritten, but he worked it.
True,
So
yeah,
you can be
yeah.
underwritten and then, I don't know.
Yeah. So, Tilk is talking to the local about what it is to betray your god. And he also tells them there should be a second device. because the first device doesn't work on its own. You need two of them. Jack is dressing, well, he switched clothes with the local so he can blend in and try, while they try to find the other device. Then Daniel and Tilk locate a ruin, exactly like where the other device was found, apparently, and Tilk blasts a perfectly round hole in the stonework.
Which also begs the question, how did it get down there if you don't need like a switch or...
Yeah, I was also like, was he buried on purpose? Why is there a stone tablet on it?
I think the pyrotechnic guy was just like, look, I want to blow something up, okay?
They needed it to be hidden.
Yeah.
So there was like, oh, there's an old ruin and there's stone on top. But the way it looks in the final image,
Yeah.
it's a bit weird. But yeah.
But still got to blow stuff up, so, you know.
Jack, meanwhile, infiltrates the build site and he starts using blow darts to take out the guards.
Which, is that standard military training? Because blow darts are hard. You can't just pick that up and go like, oh, let me just... No, you need like...
But where did he get those? Did he pick them up somewhere? Because I don't believe the slave guy was...
Oh, that
going...
wasn't even my... I didn't even wonder where he got them. But for me, it was just like, does he play the trombone in his free time? Because you need lung capacity to make those work.
Yeah. Yeah, he goes to free Connor and the guards capture them, and when they are walking out, they disarm Jack and take both of them with them. Meanwhile, Carter is studying the device as Jack is brought in, and then Hansen threatens to shoot Jack unless Carter turns the machine on, which she does. The others have uncovered the other device. They use the magic of editing to lift it out of there. And the local guy comes running, I didn't write down his name, I'm sorry, saying that everyone has been called to gather at the Stargate. And when we get there, the gate is on the ground.
Yeah, which is kind of weird.
Yeah, but Hansen wants to bury it, and he has the device with him. He tells the locals he will cast SG-1 back to Earth before they bury it. And Carter gets mad because without the signal to open the iris, they will die. Mm-hmm. Connor and Jack are led to the edge, and then the local guy starts firing Tilk's staff. And Carter manages to kick the gun from Hansen's hand in the chaos. Then Daniel rushes forward to talk to the people, trying to convince them that Hansen is not a god. Hansen tries to activate the machine to prove he has magic, but it doesn't work, and he is confused and mad. And then Daniel explains it's not a godlike power, it's just that there are two machines, and they fire the staff in the air to signal Tilk, who activates the other one, and the sky indeed turns orange, which is basically a filter over the whole image for the rest of the episode.
Yeah.
Hansen then wants to grab Carter and run, but Jack tackles him, and the locals rush Hansen and throw him in the open gates, killing him.
Yeah.
Then we cut to later, where the gate is back vertical and the group is ready to leave.
But there is no sign of the fourth soldier. We never see him get taken, thrown in the gate. He never surrenders. He's not ready to go back to Earth to face a court-martial. Nobody knows what happened to him.
No, it doesn't even get mentioned.
No, so...
Yeah. We have a nice conversation between Carter and Jack, because Carter regrets not stopping him sooner, but Jack tells her that not killing a person is not a bad thing. Mm-hmm. He hands her Hansen's Bible, and then we have the point where he says about the first commandment thing, mm-hmm. and she's like, what, like, and tells him that's wrong. The not killing one is not the first one.
It's the fifth one.
Exactly. They ask the locals.
And it's the fifth episode. Oh, look at that!
I bet that was unintentional.
I know.
They ask the locals if they will be all right. But they are ready to fully explore their new worlds.
Well, no, they're fully ready to explore the tiny dome. I mean, the world is vast, yes, but you can't. Well, they can't technically move these.
It's not really clear how big the dome is.
It was from the Stargate
big.
to the point where Teal'c was turning it on, so it was within shooting distance. I mean, it's gonna be bigger than the caves, so they will have more room.
Well,
But
yeah,
I don't know. It's not huge.
no. Jackson activates the Stargate and they walk out of frame, taking Connor with them back home. And that's the end of the episode.
Which means that assuming the fourth soldier also died, we lost another 3 SG members.
It's
which,
the 90s.
It's the 90s, and people were very expendable back then. But still,
Especially in movies and TV.
yeah, they're the SG teams outside of SG1 are very much red shirts, I feel.
So, final thoughts on the episode.
I like how they all got their little character developments. They work really well as a team. They know what to expect from each other as a team. So yeah, other than some weird choices, like how to dress people and then not use that to their advantage in the way it would make sense, or putting that fourth soldier there who didn't have anything to do at all, makes me wonder what happened
this
there.
one has a really solid idea. Mm-hmm. It kind of is a bit like Apocalypse Now, where they have to go and find the colonel that's missing, and he's gone native.
You pronounced that right on the first go. Well done.
But it's very underwritten. There's story beats and pieces of dialogue that just get repeated and repeated and repeated, and you have this solid relationship. Carter and Hansen, they have a history, and this should be a battle of wits at some point. Science versus pretending to be a god, and it never goes there.
I also found it a little bit of an odd choice. Well, not an odd choice. Daniel basically does it's science, it's not a religion speech. That should have gone to Carter. But I feel like the decision was made because Daniel has very little to do in this episode, and they wanted to even out the lines, which makes sense because he has second billing. But in my eyes, it would have made more sense if, Carter did the whole science explanation. But yeah, it feels kind of like a filler episode.
Yeah, it's they needed something, they wrote it, they didn't have time to really go into it, and they just kept it as it was.
Yeah.
It's fine. Mm-hmm. It has a good idea, but it doesn't really go anywhere with it. I also noted that there are some nice music cues in this one. So they used the melodies from the main theme in interesting ways, like slowing it down, using some different instruments, and just like very lightly putting it on their scenes and building some stuff up. And that was like, oh, that's nice. That's some good music use, because they have a really good opening theme, which barely gets used in the show itself. So that was nice to hear some of those melodies come back.
Yeah. And they do have a lot of shots that are very dark, but 99% of them are in focus, which also points to a show that is taking its time and is letting everybody do their job. And it doesn't feel like the production was rushed. It feels sometimes like they didn't have all the money for every episode, but they do get their time to do everything they have to do.
They usually tend to see where they need the budget the most, like season finales or season openers get a little bit more budget, and this is clearly one of the more lightweight episodes, story-wise, but also budget-wise. Like, the location is a quarry with some wooden poles and then a matte painting of a weird temple.
I feel like we're gonna see more weirder temples, though.
Yeah,
but weird.
Like you said, it looks a bit rushed. Just make it resemble church windows and maybe a tower.
It kind of feels
I don't know.
like this person who had to make the matte painting never got the brief and was like, will you just please give me a brief? I need time to make this. Nobody's giving you a brief. You know what? I'm just gonna make something really silly and then you're gonna feel silly. Oh, you like it? Okay, you know what? I'm just gonna go and grab a coffee and screw all of you. I'm not putting my name on this. Do you still have more? How many notes did you take?
I made a little bit of notes. Like the guy that plays Connor, Roger Cross, is not like a big actor, but he did some TV and movie work. Like, he has a main part in Dark Matter. He has a guest role on The Rookie. He was apparently in War of Planet of the Apes. So he's been around. And then the bad guy, Jonas Hansen, William Russ. Apparently, his main role was in the series Boy Meets World. I don't know, maybe...
I've seen that one, but I didn't recognize him, which doesn't mean anything. I am face
No,
blind.
but-
I will lose track of people. If Michael Sheen puts on a wig, he is gone. He no longer exists to me, which is a problem.
No, but I was like, I had a feeling I knew the guys from somewhere, so I looked it up and I was like,
Yeah.
okay, they're professional actors who've done a lot of work, so...
He's very good at that. He will see an actor in the background, not even an actor, but like an extra, and he's like, they filmed in Vancouver because I know that extra.
Oh, I
All
can't
the time.
I can't wait for the episode where I don't know his name, so I'm looking forward to his first appearance because there's a couple of extras. Well, not even extras. It's more like day players, and they feature in every series, in every spin-off. They appear in Stargate Atlantis and in Universe and play different characters, and like I love pointing them out.
Yeah. He's very much the person who will be like, I know that extra. He was in this and this and this. And then you look him up and you're like, yeah, you're right. Okay, cool.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm not always good with names, but I'm good with faces.
Like, you will see an episode, it'll come up, and like they will be like, guest appearance by, and you're like, ah! And I'm like, I don't know who all
Recognizing
these
a
people
name,
are.
I'm really good at. Yeah.
I don't. People, names, faces, I don't know.
Well.
It's
You have other qualities. You're a really good writer.
Yay! In books, people don't have to have faces.
But they do need names.
They do need names. And then my editor goes like, change the names, and I'm like, okay.
So, we reached the end of the episode. So, we'll see you next week for the 6th episode of Stargate SG-1. And meanwhile, you can find us online at...
I am Evie Belknap on TikTok and on Blue Sky, and I still didn't download Instagram again.
But yeah, we filmed these really close together, so we really didn't have the time to do so. But anyway.
He's very sweet. I'm still not gonna do it time for this to air, but okay.
Anyway, you can find me on Instagram as Arne Köstermans and on YouTube and Blue Sky as Iridonian. And I got my wife made me install TikTok, so I am Iridonian on there, but I haven't posted.
Well, the last time
anything.
you were on TikTok, you lasted 5 days and then you deleted your account. So I
don't
think,
have high hopes.
I think you're gonna be gone in like 4
I have
days.
no idea what I have to put on there
You don't have to put on anything. You just look at what you like, or
don't like. I
yeah.
don't
But
know.
at least now I can send you videos.
Okay, you could do that before too, but it's fine. Okay, thanks all for watching and listening, and we'll see each other next week. Bye.